How to give her great oral sex. Hey everybody, in this video I'm going to be talking about how to give her great oral sex. You know, most women love receiving oral sex just as much as men do. However, what I hear from a lot of women is that a lot of men really aren't very good at it. There can be different reasons for that. A lot of men don't prioritize it as much. For instance, a lot of ladies will sort of pride themselves on their skills of giving oral sex to men. But men don't necessarily do that. They don't pride themselves on how well they can give oral to a woman. Another thing is, a lot of men learn how to give oral sex from watching porn. And I had years ago on my podcast, one of the top male porn stars of all time, Eric Everhart, on the show. And we talked about this. And one of the things he said is, giving oral sex to a woman on camera doesn't look good. Like if you gave really good oral sex, because your face is buried in there, it covers everything, you can't see anything. So they do oral sex in porn movies in a way that looks good in camera, but doesn't necessarily make for great oral sex. So when you see her screaming in ecstasy and having orgasms, it's probably not real because the oral sex isn't actually that good. So whatever the reason is, men, we're going to get you up to speed. We're going to tell you everything you need to know to be able to give her great oral sex. But before I do that, please make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. I'm really close to the 100,000 subscriber mark. That's a big milestone. I'm really looking forward to getting there. So if you're not subscribed to the channel, please do so. Also, make sure to like the videos and share them with your friends. It spreads the love. It helps increase, people's knowledge and skill set on sex, love, and relationships, and that just makes for a better world. Hey everybody, I am Kevin Anthony, Certified Sexologist, Tantra Counselor, NLP Practitioner, and sex, love, and relationship coach. And for over a decade, I have been helping men, women, and couples have the relationship of their dreams and the best sex of their lives. All right, here we go. We're going to dive right in. Now, I've broken it up into two sections. We have the setup section, and then we have the actual technique. So let's start with the setup section. All right, number one, our goal here is for her to be able to let go, relax, and really enjoy. Because almost no matter how good you are, if she can't relax and really receive, it's not going to feel that good to her. So the number one thing is figure out how you can help her check the things off her to-do list. So, if you want to give her oral sex and she's in the middle of stuff and she's thinking about the kids' lunches she's got to pack and, the thing that wasn't done and the laundry that wasn't put away and the this, that, and the other thing, she's never really going to be able to let go, relax, and receive. And this is true of sex in general. This is a tip I always give when I'm talking about, how can you make the sex really good? Women have a lot going on. They got a lot to do in the world and it'll be running around in their minds and they need to be really in their receptive mode, and they can't do that when they are focusing on the fact that there's too many other things. So whether that's help her get the things done, help her realize those things aren't that important, whatever it is, find a way to sort of help her clear her mind so that she can really get into receiving mode. Number two, make sure that she is in a comfortable position. Now, I know as a guy, we'll sometimes be in the most uncomfortable positions during sex acts. And we're like, we don't even care because it feels good on our penis and we're just going with it. It doesn't usually work that way for most women. If they're uncomfortable, then their mind just starts focusing on the fact that they're so uncomfortable. And then they really can't be in that receiving mode again. So take the time to make sure that she's in a comfortable position and realize that being comfortable is probably more important to her than it is to you. All right, number three in the setup part of this is making sure that she's warm. All of these things, you're starting to see a pattern through all of these, right? These are all things to make her comfortable so that she can relax, let go, and really receive. So make sure that it's warm wherever you are. And if it's not that warm, make sure that there's blankets covering her torso or whatever it is. Find a way to make her so that she's as comfortable as she can be. And lastly, number 4 is make sure you do a little bit of warm up before you go straight there. Now, I know. Sometimes there are times where it's just hot and heavy, where you just pick her up, throw her down on the couch with no prep whatsoever, pull her pants down and go for it. Nothing wrong with that. Sometimes that is super hot. However, in general, you want to do a little bit more warm up. So, you've done all those other things in the setup. Now she's there, her legs are spread, she's ready to receive you. Start by massaging her thighs or kissing her inner thighs or, touching her on the outer labia first. Like, do a little bit to warm her up. If you do that, she will be so much more receptive when you actually start the oral sex itself. Okay, part 2, the technique. So you've done all that setup stuff. Now it's time to actually go for it. So number 1, you're going to start by teasing her. So what do I mean by that? Well, it's kind of similar to the end of, part 1, right? Where I was saying, get her warmed up a little bit. Well, this is kind of the same thing, but now you can actually be using your mouth and giving her oral sex, but don't dive straight in and go for it real hard. Just start by gently licking, lick the outer labia, lick the inner labia, look around the opening of the vagina, tease her a little bit. That will go a really long way. That will really help her open up more, lubricate more, relax more. So number 1, start by teasing her a little bit. Number 2 is to entice her. So you're teasing her and you're actually using that as a way to entice her, to get her to the point where she's begging you for more, begging you to go faster, harder, deeper, whatever it is. So really work on building that up. Again, the goal of this video really is to help you give her what she considers great oral sex, right? And so if she's getting to that point where she's just can't get enough of you down there and she's begging for more, you're doing it right. Number 3, pay attention to how she reacts to what you're doing. One of the things that you often see out there in the realm, where people are giving you advice on how to give great oral sex to a woman is, you do the triple tongue twister technique, or you count the alphabet, or you blah, 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 whatever it is, you draw numbers. All of that stuff is all well and good, but the thing you have to realize is that not everything works for every woman. And so you really need to make sure that whatever you're doing works for her. And the only way to do that is to really pay attention to how the things that you are doing are landing for her, right? So, are her eyes rolled back in her head? Are her eyes closed? Are they open? Is her face relaxed and have a look of pleasure, or is it kind of tense and tight, or feeling like something's uncomfortable? Is her body squirming? Is it relaxing? Are her legs and opening wider? Is her vagina lubricating more? Right? Look for all of the signs to show that what you're doing is working. And that leads me to number 4, which is if you find something that is working, stick with it. In general, women like rhythmic motions when it comes to oral sex. So if you find a particular move, maybe you're circling around the clitoris and you see that she's really responding to it and really liking it, just keep going. But remember to keep paying attention, because at some point that might shift for her, and that's the cue to move on and do something else. But if you find something that's working, just stick with it and do it rhythmically. That, of course, leads me to number 5, which is to experiment. Don't get too caught up in your head about, I got to do this technique or that technique, but just try different things while always watching to see the effect that it has. Is she liking it? Is she not liking it? Now, here's the thing. A lot of guys will do that. They'll experiment. They'll find a couple of things that she generally likes, and then every time they give oral, they do the same thing. Well, one thing that you need to know about women is not only are they all different, but they themselves will vary from one time to the next, or even one moment to the next. So I've already talked about if you find something that's working, stick with it and do it rhythmically. But at some point, that might no longer work for her and it's time to change. Same thing with one time to the next. Last time you gave her oral sex and you did this particular move and she loved it. This time you're doing it and you're like, I don't get it. Why isn't it working? It worked last time. Well, last time was last time. This time is this time. So experiment, try different things. Don't get stuck or hung up on the fact that, no, this is the thing that works. Why won't it work? I'm going to make it work. If I just keep doing it, it'll finally eventually work. If it's not working, it's not working. Move on, try something else. All right, number 6. You want to get to the point where you can actually take her through multiple waves of orgasm. Now, if you know anything about female orgasms, you will know that they are a bit more complex, let's say, than the average male orgasm. Now, of course, when we talk about male orgasm, most people think we mean ejaculation. Just know that ejaculation and orgasm are two separate things that generally occur at the same time unless you've learned to separate them. But with women, they can have many different types of orgasms. They can have clitoral orgasms. They can have G-spot orgasms, cervical orgasms. They can feel explosive. They can feel implosive. They can be rolling, right? There's all kinds of different ways that an orgasm can feel. And so just because she didn't blast off into a screaming explosive orgasm doesn't mean that she isn't having an orgasm. And in fact, some women are even a little confused about that because they think if they aren't exploding into a screaming orgasm that they didn't actually have one, when in fact they did. The point here is you want to be able to do this long enough and well enough that you take her through multiple waves of that, right? So you'll notice, you'll feel her energy, her breathing, her body moving, maybe she's making more sound, and you'll feel it kind of hit a point and then it'll kind of drop back down, right? And you want to just keep cycling through that. That is part of the natural progression. Too many times when men are giving oral and they see that she's getting close and then she falls back, they're like, ah, and they feel like deflated or disappointed, like we almost got there. That's okay. That is part of the natural cycle. Take her through as many of those waves as you can, as you want to, as she wants to. They will tend to build, and if you keep at it long enough, they will generally result in a fairly big explosive orgasm, but maybe not, and that's okay. That's not actually the goal anyway. The goal is to just be able to take her through those waves of ecstasy. And that, of course, leads me to number 7, which is to not focus on the orgasm. So notice I said that you want to give her multiple orgasmic waves. I didn't say your goal, should you choose to accept it, is to make sure she has an orgasm. She might, tell you that like today it's just not going to happen, right? And sometimes that's the case. There's so many factors involved in whether or not a woman actually has an orgasm, some of which you have no control over and you can't predict. So don't worry about it. Don't attach to the idea that you have to give her an orgasm. The idea here is to give her pleasure, and she will still receive pleasure if you're taking her through those multiple waves. And of course, that brings me to number 8, which is no pressure. You can't pressure her. You can't be like, come on, baby, you're almost there. Come on. I need you to come for me. I want you to come for me. As soon as you start to put pressure on a woman to orgasm, like if she was up here getting close to the orgasm, it just, that pressure absolutely takes her further away from her orgasm. What she needs to orgasm is to relax. And pressure does not create relaxation. So just focus on giving her as many waves of orgasmic pleasure as you can. There's no pressure that she has to have an orgasm or a specific type of orgasm or anything like that. Just let her receive, and that is when you'll strike gold. Part of no pressure is number 9, which are the 3 magic words. Take your time. A lot of women are actually self-conscious about the fact that it will take them quite a long time. They start to worry about he's been down there too long, his tongue is going to get tired, his neck is going to hurt, blah, 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 whatever it is. Then they start to get caught up in their heads. And this is exactly like what happens at the beginning when we talked about the setup and how many things are running through her head. If she starts worrying about that, it's going to take her out of receiving mode and it's going to bring her further away from her orgasm. But if you can reassure her and you can tell her, take your time. It's okay. There's no rush here. There's no pressure. Take your time. 3 magic words. And all right, number 10, have fun. Have fun with it. it's sex, or a sex act at least. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be pleasurable. It's supposed to bring us closer together and facilitate connection. Have fun with it. Don't get all caught up in the details. Don't get too much in your head. Don't turn it into performance. Have fun with it. If you can do all of those things, or even most of those things, you will be the best provider of oral sex that she has ever had in her life. I guarantee it. All right, there you go. Those are my tips for how to give her great oral sex. If you have some tips that aren't on this list, drop them in the comments. And ladies, you can chime in also and, tell us what you think. Do you like what I've shared here? Do you have your own thoughts and views on it? Let me know in the comments. And of course, if you are looking for more of my content, of course, you can check this entire channel. Also go to kevininsuline.com/link in bio. There are links right there. It's all right there on one page for everything that I'm doing, from my men's sexual mastery courses at powerandmastery.com to the Love Lab podcast, to this YouTube channel, to my coaching programs, to the products I sell. It's all right there. kevininsuline.com/link in bio.